Before we begin, please support me for just a moment. I work very hard to create these stories, and life isn't easy for me. Your like and subscription can help me earn a little and keep my home running. If you enjoy my stories, please support my channel. Even one like means more to me than you know. Thank you for being here. Now let's begin. Welcome to Emotions Unfolded, where every story carries a secret, every betrayal has a consequence, and sometimes the person you trust most becomes the reason you finally discover your own strength. My sister invited me to her wedding knowing exactly how much I had sacrificed for her. But when she publicly humiliated me in front of everyone, I handed her a gift she thought was meaningless. She had no idea that opening it would change her entire wedding and our family forever. My name is Elena, and for most of my life, I believed that being a good sister meant putting your own happiness aside for someone else. My younger sister, Claire, was the person I protected more than anyone. When we were children, I was the quiet one. Claire was beautiful, confident, and always knew how to make people notice her. She could walk into a room and somehow become the center of it without even trying. I never minded. At least, that's what I told myself. When our parents divorced, Claire was only 14 and I was 19. Mom struggled financially, so I took a second job after college to help with rent, groceries, and Claire's school expenses. I never complained. When Claire wanted to attend a private university, I helped pay her tuition. When she couldn't afford her first apartment, I gave her money for the deposit. When she started dating Daniel, the man she would eventually marry, I even helped her pay for the engagement ring she wanted. Claire always promised me the same thing. Someday, Elena, I'll make it up to you. I believed her. Then came her wedding invitation. The envelope was thick, elegant, and covered in gold lettering. I smiled when I opened it. Claire and Daniel were getting married at one of the most expensive venues in the city. I was genuinely happy for her, but there was one strange detail. My name wasn't listed as a bridesmaid. That didn't bother me. What bothered me was the note Claire had handwritten at the bottom. Please don't make this about you. It's my special day. I stared at those words for almost a minute. I hadn't planned to make anything about myself. Still, I ignored the feeling in my stomach. A week before the wedding, Claire called me. Did you get my invitation? Yes. And you're coming? Of course. There was a pause. Good. I need you to bring the gift. What gift? The one Mom told you about. I frowned. Mom hadn't mentioned anything. Claire laughed softly. You'll know what I mean. Then she hung up. The night before the wedding, I finally understood. Mom called me and asked if I had prepared the old wooden box. My heart stopped. That box belonged to Dad. After he died, Mom had given it to me because she said I was the only one who remembered what it meant. Inside was something Dad had written years before. Something extremely personal. Something Claire had never seen. I asked Mom why Claire wanted it. She became quiet. Then she said, "Just give it to her, Elena. Tomorrow will be a very important day." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I wrapped the wooden box carefully and drove to Claire's wedding. I had no idea that before the ceremony even began, my sister was about to humiliate me in front of 200 guests. And I had absolutely no idea that the little wooden box in my hands contained the one thing that could expose a secret Claire had been hiding for years. When I arrived at the wedding venue, everything looked perfect. White flowers lined the entrance. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and waiters carried trays of champagne through the crowded ballroom. Claire had clearly spent a fortune. I stood near the entrance holding Dad's old wooden box, wondering why she had specifically asked for it. Then I saw her. Claire was surrounded by her bridesmaids, laughing as they took pictures. The moment she noticed me, her smile disappeared. She walked toward me slowly. "You actually brought it?" I held up the box. "You asked me to." She glanced around before taking me by the arm. "Come with me." She pulled me into a quiet hallway. "What are you wearing?" I looked down at my simple navy dress. "You told me to wear something elegant." I meant elegant. Her words stung. I had spent nearly $200 on that dress. Before I could respond, Claire sighed. "Whatever. Just stay out of the pictures." I stared at her. "Claire, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing." "You've been acting strange for weeks." She looked directly into my eyes. Today isn't about you. I almost laughed. I know that. Good. Then she walked away. I stood there for several seconds, trying to understand how the little girl I had protected for years had become this person. During the reception, things got worse. I sat at a table near the back with distant relatives. Claire's friends occupied the tables closest to the dance floor. Then the DJ announced that Claire had prepared a special family tribute. Everyone turned toward the stage. Claire stepped onto the microphone. She talked about her childhood. She talked about Mom. She talked about Dad. Then she said something that made the entire room go silent. I've learned that sometimes people help you because they genuinely love you. She paused. And sometimes they help you because they want everyone to believe they deserve credit for your success. My stomach dropped. I knew exactly where this was going. Claire looked directly at me. Unfortunately, I've experienced the second kind. Whispers spread across the room. My aunt looked at me. My mother lowered her head. Claire continued. My sister Elena has always reminded me how much she's done for me. She likes people to believe I wouldn't be where I am without her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I hadn't told anyone about the tuition. I hadn't told anyone about the apartment deposit. I hadn't even told anyone that I had helped with the engagement ring, because I never considered those things debts. Claire smiled. But today, I want everyone to know that I built my own life. The room erupted in awkward applause. I sat frozen. Then Claire walked toward me. She held out her hand. Since you brought my gift. Everyone watched. Why don't you give it to me now? I slowly stood. My hands were shaking. I carried the wooden box onto the stage. Claire took it from me. Then she turned toward the guests. This is for my sister. She smiled. And apparently it's very important. She opened the lid. Inside was a folded letter. Claire pulled it out. Her smile vanished. For the first time that entire day, she looked genuinely afraid. She unfolded the paper. Her eyes moved across the first few lines. Then she looked at me. Elena! Her voice was barely audible. I whispered, Read it. She stared at the letter again. And suddenly the confident bride who had humiliated me in front of 200 people looked like a terrified teenager. Because that letter wasn't a love letter. It wasn't an inheritance document. It was written by Dad. And it contained a secret Claire had spent years making sure nobody discovered. Claire stood on the stage, holding Dad's letter with both hands. Nobody spoke. The music had stopped. Even the waiters seemed to have frozen. She looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Fear, not anger, not embarrassment. Fear. What is this? She whispered. I looked at her. You know what it is. She shook her head quickly. No, I don't. Then read it. Claire glanced at Mom. Mom's face had gone completely pale. That was when I realized something. Mom already knew what was inside. Claire slowly lowered the letter. Elena, we should talk privately. I shook my head. Not anymore. Her eyes widened. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I took a breath. For years, I let you tell everyone that I helped you because I wanted attention. I let you make me look desperate for recognition. I never corrected you. Claire stared at me, but I never expected you to humiliate me at your wedding. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean. You did. The room was completely silent. I turned toward the guests. I never wanted credit for helping my sister. I did it because she was my sister. I looked back at Claire, but apparently she thought that kindness made me weak. Claire whispered my name. Please. I stepped closer. Read the letter. She looked down. Her fingers tightened around the paper. Finally, she began reading. Dad had written the letter 12 years earlier. He explained that before his death, he had discovered something about Claire. Something she had never told me. Something Mom had agreed to keep secret. The letter said that Claire had been involved in a serious financial mistake. At 14, she had taken money from an account Dad had created for both of us. It wasn't a small amount. It was the money he had been saving for our futures. When Dad discovered the missing money, Claire begged him not to tell me. She promised she would repay every cent. Dad agreed, but there was one condition. He wanted Claire to understand that family could forgive mistakes, but forgiveness did not erase responsibility. He wrote that he had moved the remaining money into a protected account, and he named me as the person who would eventually manage it. I looked at Claire. You knew about the account. She said nothing. I continued. You knew Dad left something behind. She lowered her head. But you didn't know the account was still active. Her eyes snapped toward me. What? I pulled another document from my purse. This is why Mom told me to bring the box. Claire stared at the papers. The room suddenly became even quieter. Dad hadn't simply left money. He had left instructions. And those instructions were clear. The money would only be released when Claire admitted what she had done and took responsibility for it. Claire looked at me in disbelief. You knew. I found out 3 months ago. And you didn't tell me? No. Why? I looked at her. Because I wanted you to tell me the truth yourself. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Then Daniel suddenly walked toward us. He took the letter from her hand. He read the first few lines. His face changed. He looked at Claire. What is this? Claire didn't answer. Daniel looked at me. Is this true? Before I could respond, Claire whispered, Daniel. He stepped back. You told me you never took anything from your family. Claire began crying, and that's when I realized the letter wasn't the biggest secret. There was another page, a page Claire hadn't read yet, and when Daniel turned it over, his face went completely white. Daniel stared at the second page for several seconds. Then he looked at Claire. What does this mean? Claire reached for the letter. Give it to me. Daniel pulled it away. No. His voice was different now. Come. Cold. What else have you been hiding from me? Claire looked around the room. Everyone was watching. Her bridesmaids were whispering. My mother was crying silently, and I suddenly realized this wasn't just about the money anymore. Daniel looked at the page again. Then he looked at me. Did your father write this? Yes. And you knew about it? I only learned about it recently. Daniel looked at Claire. Then explain this. Claire finally broke. I was scared. She covered her face. I was 14. I didn't know what I was doing. Daniel's expression softened for a second. Then he asked, Why didn't you tell me? Claire lowered her hands. Because I knew you'd think differently of me. That doesn't answer my question. She looked toward me. Elena already thought I was irresponsible. I couldn't believe it. You stole from Dad. I made a mistake. You hid it for years. I was a child. Yes, I said quietly. And I forgave you before I even knew I had something to forgive. Claire froze. I continued. That is what hurts the most. She stared at me. I spent years thinking I was helping you build your future. I paid your tuition. I helped with your apartment. I helped you when you were struggling. Claire began crying harder. I never asked you to do all that. No, I replied. You didn't. The room became silent again. Then Daniel looked down at the document. There is something else. Claire immediately said, No. Daniel looked at her. What? She stepped toward him. Please don't. He read the final paragraph. His expression changed completely. Then he slowly looked at me. Your father knew Claire was planning to take more money. I nodded. Yes. Daniel turned toward Claire. Is that true? Claire said nothing. That silence answered everything. Daniel stepped away from her. You were going to take the money after the wedding? Claire started shaking her head. No, it wasn't like that. Then what was it? She looked at me. I was going to borrow it. For what? She didn't answer. I did. For the business. Daniel looked confused. What business? I handed him another document. Claire's face went pale. She wasn't going to tell you, I said. Daniel looked at the document. It showed that Claire had been secretly planning to buy a small business with money she expected to receive from the family account. But there was one problem. The business had enormous debts, and Claire had already signed preliminary papers. Daniel looked at her. You were going to put us into debt. I was trying to build something for us. You were going to use money that wasn't yours. Claire cried. I thought Elena would give it to me. I stared at her. That sentence hurt more than anything else, because it proved she hadn't seen me as her sister. She had seen me as a resource, a person she could always return to when she needed something. I walked off the stage. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted peace. But before I could reach the exit, Claire called my name. Elena! I stopped. She came running toward me. For the first time that day, there was no arrogance in her voice, only desperation. Please don't leave. I turned around. She whispered, You're the only person who can save me. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I realized something. That was exactly what I had been doing my entire life. Saving her. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop. I stood near the exit, listening to Claire beg me not to leave. You're the only person who can save me, she repeated. Those words used to make me feel needed. That day, they made me feel exhausted. I turned around. Claire, I'm not responsible for saving you anymore. She stared at me. But you're my sister. And you're mine, I said. That's why I spent years helping you. But being your sister doesn't mean I have to keep cleaning up your mistakes. Daniel was standing several feet away. He looked devastated. The wedding guests were beginning to leave the ballroom quietly. Some avoided eye contact. Others whispered as they passed. Claire suddenly grabbed my hand. Please. I gently pulled it away. I brought you Dad's letter because I thought you deserved the truth. She looked at the wooden box. But you turned my kindness into a weapon. She started crying. I was jealous of you. I froze. What? Claire wiped her tears. I was always jealous. She looked toward the floor. You were responsible. Everyone trusted you. Dad relied on you. Mom came to you when she needed help. Her voice broke. And I hated that. I had never known. You could have told me. I didn't want to. Why? Because if I admitted I needed you, I'd have to admit you were better than me. That sentence stayed with me, not because I believed I was better, but because Claire had spent years fighting an imaginary competition I never knew existed. Daniel finally approached us. Claire. She looked at him. I need some time. Her face collapsed. Daniel, please. I can't marry you today. The room went silent. Claire stared at him as if he had slapped her. You're leaving me? I don't know what I'm doing yet, he said. But I know I can't stand here and pretend everything is fine. He removed his wedding ring. Then he placed it on the table. Claire began sobbing. I felt something inside me break. Not because I wanted her wedding ruined. I didn't. I had never wanted that. I wanted my sister to be honest. That was all. I walked outside. Mom followed me. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then she said, I should have told you sooner. I looked at her. About Claire? She nodded. Your father asked me to protect her. I shook my head. You protected her from consequences. I protected her from everything else. Mom started crying. I know. I looked back at the venue. I don't hate her. I know. I don't even want her to suffer. Mom took my hand. Then what do you want? I thought about it. For the first time in years, I didn't have an answer that involved Claire. I want my own life. That night, I went home alone. I placed Dad's wooden box on my kitchen table. Inside, it was the final page of his letter. I hadn't read it before. I unfolded it carefully. Dad had written, Elena, if you're reading this, you've probably spent years believing your job is to protect your sister. It isn't. Love someone enough to help them, but also love them enough to let them face the consequences of their choices. I read those words again, then again, and I cried, not because Dad was gone, but because I finally understood what he had been trying to tell me. The next morning, Claire called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her voice was quiet. Elena. Yes. I don't want your money. I said nothing. I want my sister back. I closed my eyes. Then she said something I never expected. I know I don't deserve forgiveness yet. My heart softened. but I'm going to spend the rest of my life becoming someone who does. For the first time, I believed her. But forgiveness wasn't going to happen overnight, and neither was rebuilding trust. Still, when she asked if we could meet for coffee, I agreed. Because sometimes ending a toxic cycle doesn't mean ending a relationship. Sometimes it means finally changing the rules. 3 months passed before Claire and I finally sat down together. Not at Mom's house, not at a family gathering, just two sisters sitting across from each other in a quiet little cafe. Claire looked different, not physically, emotionally. The confidence was still there, but the arrogance was gone. She looked tired. I have been going to counseling, she said. I nodded. That's good. I also canceled the business deal. I looked at her. You did? Yes. What about the money? I told the bank I wasn't taking anything from Dad's account. For the first time, I smiled. Good. Claire looked down at her coffee. I know I hurt you. Yes. I embarrassed you. Yes. I made you feel like everything you'd done for me was worthless. I didn't answer. She took a breath. I don't expect you to forgive me today. I looked into her eyes. I already forgave you. She looked surprised. But I don't trust you yet. Her eyes filled with tears. I understand. That was the difference. The old Claire would have demanded forgiveness. The new Claire accepted that trust had to be earned. A year later, Claire and Daniel did eventually get married. It wasn't the enormous wedding they had originally planned. There were no luxury decorations, no giant ballroom, no performance for 200 people, just close family and a small ceremony. And this time, Claire asked me to stand beside her, not because she needed someone to pay for something, not because she wanted me to rescue her. She simply wanted her sister there. Before the ceremony, she gave me a small package. I opened it. Inside was a photograph of Dad. On the back, she had written, "Thank you for teaching me that love isn't the same thing as letting someone get away with everything." I couldn't hold back my tears. I hugged her. For the first time in years, the hug felt equal. Not like an older sister protecting a younger one. Not like someone carrying another person's problems. Just two sisters, finally standing on the same ground. Later that evening, Claire came over to me. "Do you remember the gift you gave me at my first wedding?" I laughed. "You mean the disaster?" She smiled. I kept the wooden box. Why? Because it changed my life. I looked at her. That wasn't the gift. She frowned. What was? The truth. She smiled through her tears. I think I finally understand. And I realized something too. For years, I had believed family meant sacrificing yourself for the people you loved. But Dad's final message taught me something far more important. Real love doesn't require you to disappear so someone else can shine. You can love someone and still say no. You can forgive someone without trusting them immediately. You can support family without becoming responsible for every decision they make. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is stop rescuing them. My sister didn't need another person to save her. She needed the chance to become responsible for her own life. And I needed the chance to live mine. That wedding was supposed to be the day Claire humiliated me. Instead, it became the day both of us finally learned the truth about love, family, forgiveness, and boundaries. And strangely enough, the gift I brought to her wedding didn't destroy our relationship. It gave us the chance to rebuild it. If you've ever sacrificed everything for someone who never appreciated it, remember this. Your kindness is valuable. Don't let anyone convince you that setting boundaries makes you cruel. Sometimes saying enough is the first step toward loving yourself again. The end Red Heart